Welcome back to Titan Academy. In this video, we will discuss how to call a Titan flow from a Salesforce flow and pass parameters from Salesforce into that Titan flow. Before we get into building a Salesforce flow, let's look at this example Titan flow that I have built. This is a flow that will merge the files that are attached to an account object in Salesforce, and then it will take a series of actions based on the values of parameters that are passed in. Let's look at how this works. I'm going to go to my gear and go to Tools and go to Custom Variables. I've got the document IDs variable right here, which will hold the document IDs. Then I have three parameters that we will use to make decisions during this flow: send as email, attach to record, and email to. When we call this from a Salesforce flow, we will pass in variables to these. The way the rest of this flow works is with a series of conditions. Once the files are merged, in this if conditions, this will evaluate whether or not we want to attach the files to the record. If the parameter attached to record is equal to true, then we will run a push to attach the merged file to the account record. We then move on to the next decision. If the parameter send as email is equal to true, then we will send the merged file as an email, and we will send it to the email value that gets passed in. If that's not true, then we move on to the next step, which is to send an email summary report to an administrator containing information about when the flow was run and the parameters that were passed in. So now I'm going to go into Salesforce and build a Salesforce flow to call this flow. In fact, in Salesforce, I think I'll just start from scratch here and create a brand new flow. So I will create new flow. We're going to start from scratch. It will be a record triggered flow. And let's run this flow on an account when this checkbox, send attachments with parameters, is checked. So our object is account. We want to send the flow when the record is created or updated, and the conditions are send attachments with parameters equals true. All right. So the first thing I want to do is update the triggering record to clear that checkbox. So we'll call this clear checkbox. We will update the account record that triggered the flow, and we will set this field to false. I'll go ahead and save this. I'll call it send attachments with parameters. I'm now going to add an action to call the Titan flow. And then once we've done that, we will come back and create the parameters that we want to pass in. So I'll go ahead and click on the plus. We're going to call an action. The action that we want is called Form Builder Titan Flow. So let's just search for Titan Flow. I'll call this Call Titan Flow. From here, we need a minimum of two values, the form hash and the record ID. The form hash you get from your Titan flow itself. Publish the flow. We will publish the latest version. I'll call this new version. And from here, in publish mode, we can get the form hash. So I'll copy this. I'm going to paste this into the form hash value here. And we'll also need to send in the record ID of the triggering record. So for there, we want the triggering account and the account ID. I'll save this again. Now you'll notice on this action, we can accept a parameter. By default, it is not included. If we want to include it, then we will need to create a set of parameters to pass in. In order to do that, we are going to need to create a series of resources. Let's look back at our variables in the Titan flow. Tools, custom variables. The three, remember, that we want to pass in are whether or not to send us an email, whether or not to attach to the record, and the email destination. So we will need to create one Apex defined variable for each of these, and then we will need to create an Apex variable collection to hold all of them. Let's do that in the flow. So go to the toolbox, and we want to create some new resources. First new resource, let's create the 3 Apex defined variables to hold the values that we want to pass into those 3 variables in the Titan flow. Let's give it an API name. First, let's create one for the attached to record. I will call it just attached to record with underscores. We can give it a description if we want. And here, the data type will be Apex defined. The Apex class that we want to select is called Titan Flow Parameters. And we want to make this available for input and output outside the flow. And we're done. Now we've created one. Let's do that again for send as email and the email destination. So I want to again click new resource. The resource type is variable. I'll call this one email to. The data type Apex defined. The Apex class Titan Flow Parameters available for input and output. And we're done. Again, a new resource for our send as email Boolean value. Variable, I'll call it send as email. The data type is Apex. The Apex class Titan Flow Parameters available for input, available for output. And we're done. Now we want to create a collection variable to hold the values that we assign to these 3 variables here. So we'll go to new resource. The resource type is variable. I'll call this one flow params. Give it a description, Titan variable collection. The data type again is Apex defined. The Apex class Titan Flow Parameters. We want to make sure this time we select this checkbox for allow multiple values, and we will make it available for input and output outside of the flow. I'll save here. Now that we have created our resources, what we're going to do is create an assignment action, assign values to each of these 3 variables here, then add all of those variables into this collection variable, and then we will pass that collection variable to the Titan flow through this value right here in the Apex action. So let's add an assignment action after we clear the checkboxes and before the Titan flow. The element is assignment. I will call this assign parameter values. We'll give it a description, parameter collection assignment for passing to the Titan flow. Now for each of our Apex defined variables, we want to assign 2 values. A key and the value that it will hold. The key will be the name of the variable in Titan, in the Titan flow. Send as email, attached to record, at email to, all with dashes. Let's start with the send as email key. Let's start with the attached to record variable. So I'll select the attached record. We want to set the key. And here we want to make sure that we manually enter the key value exactly as it appears right here in the Titan flow. So attached to record. Right there. Let's add another assignment. For attached to record, we want to pass in a value. So here we'll say the value equals, and this can be a true or a false, since that's what we're looking for here. Let's say in this case, we do want to attach to the record, so we'll say true, the global constant. Let's do our other two variables. Add assignment, the apex variable for email to. We'll set the key as equal to its name in the Titan flow, which is email to. Let's add another assignment, set the email to value, and here we'll make it equal to whatever email we want to send this to. I will hard code this. Again, you can pull from Salesforce and assign however you want. I'll just call this Andrew N plus flow test at formtitan.com. Finally, let's set our send as email. This is going to be a Boolean value. Yep. We'll set the key. Remember this. Send as email. And the value. Let's say we want to send it as an email, so we'll pass in the value of true. Now we want to add these three apex defined variables into our collection. So in our assignment, we will add another assignment, pick the flow parameters collection. Our operator will be add, and we'll add the attached to record variable. Once again, add a value to our flow parameters collection. The operator is add, and we'll add the email to. One more time, add our third variable to the flow parameters collection. The operator is add, and we'll add the send as email Boolean. I'll save this here. We are now finished assigning the parameter values. So I'm going to go ahead now and edit this Apex action. Remember, this is the one where we call the Titan flow. If you're going to call it without parameters, just turn this off. But here we want to pass parameters. So we will make sure the parameters are included. And the parameter that we want to pass is our collection, the flow params. Let's go ahead and save this and activate it. And now I want to give it a test. So I'll go to my test record here, Titan test account. This has 3 files attached. So if I select this checkbox here, that flow should execute. And it should merge these 3 files into one, attach it to the record, and send it to the email address that we passed in. So I've saved it. The checkbox is now cleared, so we see that the flow has executed, and now we wait for the files to process. I have now received 2 emails. I have now received an email to the email that we passed in. The documents are merged and attached to the email. They should also be attached as a merged file on the account object. And I should have another email indicating the parameters. And I have that right here. We can see data about the flow itself and the parameters that we passed in. Send as email true, the email destination, attached to record true. And that is how it's done.